All right, Mike, we're here. What is now your baby, the Chevy Bolt. So I'm going to start with the easiest question I know. What's your favorite part of this vehicle?
My favorite part about this vehicle is that, first and foremost, it's a great car in the segment. So we started with that priority, but then also it's electric, and it is affordable and can achieve that tipping point of over 200 miles, 238 miles.
Yeah, and I see that over there. It says 231, but when I was in here last time, it said 241. So
Yeah.
238 is what the EPA says, but you can go further potentially, right?
Oh, absolutely. It just depends on the condition and the ride route. The EPA cycle is a very specific cycle that we have to certify to.
So let's talk about kind of the rollout of it. Right now, it's going to be for sale, or it is for sale actually. I think you sold like just over 500 in December, right?
Yep.
In California, and you're kind of rolling it out to Oregon. Where is it going next, and when will it be available in the entire country?
Yeah, so we wanted to roll it out in California and Oregon first because 50% of our EV market is there. And so we wanted to make sure that those customers foremost had the car right away. And we'll roll this out throughout the country by the end of this summer, we'll have all the states covered.
Okay, so it's going to be available in Colorado where I live.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. How much power do you lose at the winter time? Because I know my wife had a Prius and we would lose maybe 20%. Obviously batteries don't like the cold, so how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so what we recommend in the cold weather is to always keep your car plugged in the garage and charging because we'll condition the battery by doing that, and we'll be able to preserve a lot of range. We can use the wall to heat up the car for comfort and heat up the battery, and then when you unplug, you've got the maximum amount of energy possible in your battery. And yes, all batteries will have reduced range in the winter, but the nice thing about our battery is that we get over 238 miles, so even in the winter you're going to get a lot of range.
You've been driving it in Michigan?
Yes.
How does it do in the snow?
It does really well in the snow, and I say that, you might think, he's biased, right? He's a chief engineer. No, I mean, I test a lot of cars. I've driven a lot of cars. The traction control, the stability control, our controls engineers have done an awesome job relative to traction control in ice conditions, and the car really performed well in very deep snow. And we had a lot of snowstorms this winter.
Yeah. I mean, I think only, 3 electric cars that are sold in the entire country. There's I think 9 or 11 compliance cars that are sold in California, right? But the Leaf is one of them, the Tesla, and now the Bolt.
Yep,
dedicated.
Pure electric.
Yeah,
And
but
we have a Spark EV too.
But that's not sold in. It's only sold in
Yeah.
right. I'm talking about cars.
Oh,
that
in cold weather.
That are sold in the entire country. And, okay, the BMW i3 if you don't get the range extender.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you walk me through some of this IP? Kind of tell me what you've done here and why you've done it. So let's start with kind of the display that you have there.
Right, so we have an 8-inch display here for the cluster, and what we show on the left side here is our state of charge, or our range for our battery. And so what you see in the middle there is what we expect to get out of the battery. But you also see at the top the max you could potentially get and the min you might get. And the way this works is that you see these gray bars here. As you're driving, we'll start to show whether you're trending towards max or trending towards min based on how efficiently you drive. And that gives the customer a little bit of confidence on whether they're trending up or trending down, and if they need to adjust, they can do so accordingly.
And you can change that, right? Why don't we show them the different kind of displays that you've got in there?
Yeah, so if you want to change the display layout and you want it to be maybe just a little less cluttered, you can have this type of display layout where it just shows you your expected range, and then it also has a meter on the right side that will show you how efficient you are in your acceleration and braking.
Can you get that, remember in the first gen Volt you had that little ball?
Yeah,
and
there's another mode there where that ball will move up and down, and you just sort of give you a visual of how well you're doing.
Yeah, I remember that. And let's talk to you about this screen right here. What do we have here? Is it basically the same information, or is this different? Is this configurable?
Oh, so this is very configurable. It's kind of cool. So you can change your You can change your home screen to several configurations, different configurations. You can have a standard layout like we were just seeing, an eco layout where you're focusing more on energy as opposed to the radio, or a family layout where maybe time is more important. And then,
Very simple to use.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then or you can change it however you want.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you get Apple CarPlay with this?
Yes, you do. Yes, we do. And so you can plug in your Apple phone and very quickly get Apple CarPlay.
Same thing for Google?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have both Apple
Yep.
CarPlay and Google. I gotta unlock your phone. I'm not looking. Don't worry, the camera's pointing at the screen. We're not pointing at your phone.
Nothing in this phone you would want, trust me. So here's your Apple CarPlay,
Yeah,
and
so basically it
mimics your phone, right?
yeah.
And this is this is how we navigate.
So no built-in navigation, but you can use your phone for that.
Yep. Well, and also OnStar. So we got turn by turn with OnStar, which, by the way, you can also have on your cluster.
Oh, that's nice.
See,
Yeah.
we
So
have
right there in the middle.
OnStar nav. You'll have it right in the middle.
Cool. I noticed a kind of an interesting thing here. You've got heated seats, both front and back, but I see auto. What does the auto do?
So auto, if you can personalize your car for auto heated seats through the personalization menu, and auto will just automatically heat or warm, heat up your seat at different levels depending on what the environmental condition of the car is. And so you shouldn't have to adjust it. When you get in a cold car, it'll be very warm, and it'll start to monitor itself down as time goes on.
And then I see a sport button. Does
Yep.
that change anything?
So yeah, so that'll change your your response versus throttle position. So you'll get a little bit more response for a little less throttle.
And I always have this conversation with our viewers because when we do 0 to 60 testing, they always say, put it in sport mode. And I'm always like, it doesn't matter. Whenever you floor it, the car gives you all that it has. Is that the way this works?
That is true. This car will, wide open throttle is wide open throttle.
And then I asked just before, I'm going to ask again, what am I not getting here? Why are there 3 empty slots or 2 potentially?
So as you know, we will be selling this car in Europe, and those
Ampera?
Ampera E.
Ampera E, okay.
Yep, Opel Ampera E. And in Europe, some of the switches that are on our steering wheels here are required to be down in this area here. So that will offer a location for those switches for them.
So I'm not missing anything. If I get the top of the line, the Premier model, which this is.
With
right?
all options,
Then-
you will.
There's no mystery thing here, like an added all-wheel drive that
No,
where there's
no.
a motor in the back.
No.
All right, let's talk about the batteries. 60 kilowatt hours.
Yep, 60 kilowatt hour battery.
That is heated and cooled.
Yep, thermally managed.
And how big of a motor do you have? How many?
So we have a 150 kilowatt motor.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 200 horsepower if you wanted to do the conversion.
And if I remember right, you said 266 pound-foot of torque?
Yep, 266 foot-pounds, 360 newton meters.
260.
I'm sorry, 360 newton meters.
268 individual cells in the battery?
288 cells.
288.
And there's 10 modules that make up all of those cells.
And those live underneath our.
And they live
feet.
underneath the structure of the car. And actually, it's kind of interesting because the structure of that battery pack, as we integrated into the car, we were able to increase the torsional stiffness by over 28%.
Because of the battery is part of the.
But the battery
stiffness,
structure was
yeah.
part of the overall body structure.
And how about center of gravity? It's got to be great to put. And you said, almost 500 kilograms, right?
Yeah.
1,000 pounds at the very lowest point of the car. Well, how does that change the kind of the center of gravity for this?
Yeah, so that's the cool thing is that they gave us all the tools we needed to do the car right.
Yeah.
Right? We were able to make the car very large inside. We were also able to locate that battery in a position so that we could get low flat floors. And we were also able to position that battery so we could get it very low from a center of gravity perspective, which helps us with our ride and handling and also our braking because we're able to get the right mass distribution on the front and rear axles.
I got to tell you, I love this fat steering wheel.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful. You feel like you can take this thing by the scruff of the neck and kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was just driving it, and I was really impressed by the fact that you allowed a little bit of wheel spin. Maybe it was because it was wet out there, but there's a lot of torque. 0 to 60, what, 6.5?
6.5 seconds.
Yeah, that's pretty fast.
Yeah, it's fast, and that's part of why that drive unit was designed the way it was to be able to provide that performance and yet still be efficient.
So, obviously, if you didn't have that much charge in terms of torque, right, then you would end up with more battery longevity, you'd end up with more range. How do you make that calculation between how fast it'll go, how fast it'll accelerate, or how fast you allow it to accelerate versus how much range you have? Because every time you floor it, right, you're really dipping into those kilowatts.
Yeah, so we are, our range number is targeted towards the EPA cycle.
Okay.
Period. I mean, that's the goal, right? That's the label that goes on the car. You've got to, that's the goal. So clearly, if you're always doing wide open throttles or you're running a car at its max speed of 92 miles per hour, yeah, your range will, you're going to consume more energy than the EPA schedule.
Yeah, but I'm asking, at some point you guys had to sit down and say, we're going to get 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds, but if we do it in, let's say, 8 seconds, we're going to get more range.
Yeah, but you know what? It's up to the customer. So we don't really look at it that way, because if you're a conservative person and you're driving your car efficiently, you won't be doing that. But if you're a person that wants to have a little bit of fun, it's there for you.
I like that answer, but to me it seems like the more range, the better it is in terms of the marketplace.
But you
right?
can.
So there's going to be some pressure, right?
Yeah.
If you can get 250 miles versus 238 by making the car a little slower, then I could see the marketing people saying, go for that.
I think we want to offer a car that fits everybody's lifestyle.
Okay, all right, yeah, I like that. I mean, it's what makes driving an EV fun.
Yeah.
And in terms of regenerating, one of the things that you guys do, obviously, is you've got your one pedal drive mode.
Yep.
Which for some reason you call
Low.
low.
Right.
Shouldn't there be like a?
Well, because customers are used to like a low going
yeah.
down a mountain and being able to have some
So you've got the low
gear reduction,
which
but we don't have a gear here.
Yeah.
We have one gear, right? We're not doing any gear reduction. We're basically just commanding negative torque, a little bit more negative torque on the motor, and getting more regen in low.
And then if you even want to have more, you can use a little paddle shifter on the left side.
That's right. So there's really 4 modes, right? You have regen and drive, and then you can use the paddle for a little more, and then you can go to low one pedal driving where you have much more regen, and then paddle on top of that, so you can get up to 0.3 G's of negative.
And I was talking to one of the other engineers, and he said that when you do the math, you can kind of get up to 20% additional regen.
Yeah, so when we run our EPA schedule, we get about 20% of our range comes from regen.
Yeah, that's
just
pretty good.
just driving the cycle and regenning naturally, and that's not using low. That's using your drive mode and following the cycle to the procedure.
One of the things that is great about electric cars is there's not a lot of moving parts, right? You don't have a transmission, so you don't have
Right.
a lot of gears. You're not on the brakes the whole time. So what's the service cycle on this?
So you need to put washer fluid in once in a while.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
How about the brakes? I mean, do they last longer?
The brakes will last longer, but you never know what type of customer you have, right? So although the brakes could last much longer than a typical car if you always use one pedal driving and the like, you can't use that maintenance schedule because you have to assume that people don't always drive like that.
Yeah, so there's no oil change?
No.
No.
No oil change. Coolant's good for
No. And you
long
said,
time.
and actually speaking of coolant, you said there are 3 coolant systems in this vehicle, right?
There's 3 separate coolant loops because each loop has a different boundary condition and requirement relative to stabilized temperature. So we have a coolant loop for the battery, just to keep the battery warm.
Yep.
We have a coolant loop for our high power electronics. The high power electronics get pretty warm. And we have a coolant loop very specifically for the climate control system to keep the customers and passengers warm.
I thought you also cooled the motor.
The motor is also part of that high power electronics loop.
Okay, so
I've got that baked into the high power electronics because the electronics, there is an electronics board in there.
So can this car overheat?
Can the car overheat?
Yeah.
No, we've designed it not to overheat.
Okay. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
obviously it's generating a lot of heat. So
I mean, we have, if you're going, if the car is in a very, very hot environment,
Yeah.
We have software that will limit power to manage temperatures and the like, just like any car.
Is there any question I should ask? I didn't?
Where can you get one and how soon?
Yes. Well, we know you can get one in California now. You can get one in Oregon very soon, and then by the middle of summer, knock on, is this plastic? Plastic. Knock on plastic, you can probably get one in the rest of the country.
Yeah.
But you probably have to get your dealers into some kind of a special training program, I would assume, right? Because this is
Yeah.
the typical kind of car that they're working on.
Yeah, so we'll have 1,200 dealers across the country, and they're all trained. All the training equipment, all the special tools are in place. So
Oh, I forgot to ask warranty. What's the warranty on this car?
So it
the
depends.
drivetrain, yeah.
It depends on the different components. Our battery is warranted for 8 years, 100,000 miles.
All right. And when
3 years, 36 months for some of the typical.
So 3
stuff.
years, but the drivetrain, right? The
Yeah.
battery, the part that's expensive to replace. How much would it cost to replace a battery? If I had to go to the dealership and get a new
You know what? We can't
lot.
comment on that right
It
now.
would cost a lot. And when is the all-wheel drive sports car version of this coming out? That's what I want to know. Or the all-wheel drive, let's call it the pickup truck, or the all-wheel drive SUV. When are
Yeah.
those coming?
So stay tuned.
Okay, all right. I'll hold you to that. All right. It's obviously going to take a little bit more energy to drive all four wheels, but
Yeah.
I think that's where we're going at some point. That's virgin territory, right? There's no one there. Well, okay, Tesla's there with the all-wheel drive sedan, but no one's there with the pickup truck. No one's there with the sports car. Yeah, I mean, he's not getting anything. You're not getting anything. I'm trying, guys. All right. Thanks, Mike. Really
All right,
appreciate it.
take care.
Bye.